Alrighty, looks like we are all set. So once again, hello everybody, thank you for coming. I'm Ashley, I am the current DULASA president this year. I'll give everybody else to sort of do more of an introduction if they would like to. This is our second coffee chat event of the academic year, and we are really excited to sort of have a little partnership tonight with the Culinary Literacy Center at the Free Library of Philadelphia. I just want to put it out there that we have other exciting events coming up before the end of the term. Our biggest one is going to be 2 weeks from tonight, Thursday, November 18th at 7 p.m. We are doing our 4th annual Spotlight on STEM Librarianship. We will have about 3 or 4 panelists talk this year about their careers, specifically in STEM librarianship. We're really excited to host this event again. It's one of our favorites to host every year, and we hope that everybody is able to come out for that a little bit. So with that, Christine, would you like to do a further introduction?
Nope. Hi, sorry. Yes. Just a second. Our speaker tonight is Lane from the Culinary Literacy Center. Lane is, I'm so sorry. Lane is the Outreach and Programming Librarian at the Free Library of Philadelphia in their Culinary Literacy Center, which VB is behind her. And this is it's the first commercial grade learning kitchen housed in a library in the country. Before holding positions as a general adult public librarian, a museum librarian, and a fine arts librarian at a number of Philadelphia area institutions, Lane was an instructor, and before that, she was actually a pastry cook. So she holds an MI from Rutgers University, a master's in Slavic Studies from Ohio State University, and a bachelor's of arts in English from Temple. So we're very happy that Lane is here to speak with us tonight and tell us more about the Culinary Literacy Center. So Ian, take it away.
Sure. Thanks for having me. Culinary Literacy Center is a really cool place to work, and I kind of jumped at the opportunity to transfer here. As a disclaimer, I've only been here since March of this year, so I have only had the pandemic experience of the programming here, but obviously the center has been around for much longer. It opened up in the Parkway Central Library, which I hope everyone is familiar with. It's at 19th and Vine, and it actually occupies the space that used to be the staff space, but it's on the 4th floor that now has this commercial grade kitchen, which I can give a little bit of a tour if people are interested. You know, right now you can just see the range and you can see some of our equipment, but we have a full classroom and we have a full back of house setup and dish pit and everything. So the 4th floor is the Culinary Literacy Center, and then there's a very beautiful event space, large meeting room that is also there that has a terrace that overlooks the city. So that was part of kind of a reimagining of the library space that happened a few years back. So the Culinary Literacy Center is dedicated to, so the primary goal is to use food as kind of a conduit to other areas of development that you could have. You know, obviously there are STEM skills that can be stimulated through cooking. Also, you know, a lot of cultural competence that comes from it, language skills. So I can, if people are interested, I can talk about some of our recurring programs that we have, some of the series that we've been introducing. I'm the Outreach and Programming Librarian, and I work primarily with adult programming. And then we do have project leads who work specifically on different programs that are kind of, they're under the umbrella of the Culinary Literacy Center, but because of the way that the library is structured and I don't want to make things too complicated, but it's a little, being a public librarian can be confusing in a lot of ways, and this is one of them too. We have civil service staff, and we have people who are funded from a different stream. So I'm assuming that that's what this talk is about. It's about, you know, how different aspects of librarianship are pulled into different positions, and, you know, kind of the navigation of all of these things that they don't teach you in library school. So I hope that I can answer some of those questions. Do you want to hear about some of the programs that we run? Okay, so we have an ongoing program called Edible Alphabet that is geared towards immigrants and speakers of foreign languages who are learning English right now. So they gather together once a week and they make a recipe together. And there is a component of language learning, obviously, and ESL instruction, but that's coupled with kind of an exploration of global cuisine. And one of the beautiful things that's happened since the pandemic is that it moved on to a virtual environment, which meant that it was much more geographically represented. The audience was much more dispersed, and we had a lot of people from different linguistic backgrounds who've been participating, whereas in the past it was kind of more concentrated on Spanish speakers in Philadelphia. So that has been ongoing, and it's a really beautiful program that has a solid following of people who come every week, and that's going to continue in the foreseeable future virtually, along with a lot of our programs. Another recurring event that we do, or another long program that we do, is called Nourishing Literacy. And a lot of those programs are in collaboration with the children's department here. And that is a lot more, well, it's geared towards school-age children and their caretakers. So they have a lot of really fun interactive elements to it, engaging people in the library and bringing books in, but it's, you know, the goal is to introduce kids early to nutrition and get them excited about cooking with whatever they have available. And they do a lot of really fun stuff. So if you get a chance, if anyone here is interested in becoming a children's librarian, I'm really inspired by my colleagues' work in Nourishing Literacy. So I would definitely check those out. So pre-pandemic, we also had a lot of, we had knife skills classes. We had classes that were specifically for veterans. You know, we also try to identify demographics and populations that need programs and try to develop something with a community partnership in order to serve those populations, but also always keeping in mind that the end goal is to have people use the library, use our resources, and to keep in touch that way. And, you know, just really be able to have that access to information that a lot of people are lacking right now. And we are focused on some really acute issues in Philadelphia right now. And trying to bring all of that in is really difficult, but it's also really rewarding in the long run. And, you know, I hope that we're serving people the way that they desperately need right now. And that's kind of the name of the game as a programming librarian. I saw that there was a question that came in. So the programs that we have that are reoccurring are Nourishing Literacy, and that's the one for school-age children, and then Edible Alphabet. And then we have a number of series that we have in the works and ones that are not. Oh, so we also have, in partnership with Healthy Communities, we put on 6-week runs of, it's the Food Ways program, Old Ways, I'm sorry, it's called Old Ways. They have curriculum for taste of Latin American heritage, taste of African heritage. And those are the ones that we run pretty consistently in the same way, where it's a 6-week curriculum and we want people to come to the full program of it, so that by the end of it, there's a bit more, there's a little bit of a community around the program. But those are celebrations of obviously different culinary heritages, and they are hands-on cooking demonstrations.
Awesome, thank you. So did you mention earlier about like giving us like a little bit of a tour? Is that something you can like turn your camera and do? Or
Yeah, for sure. It might be a little choppy because I'm not,
Sorry.
a camera person or anything. But we have, hold on, let me pull it from back here, because this will get a better overview of our teaching space. You can see my little, my very official filming prop. So we have this space, the demonstration space, and then we have equipment that you would find in a commercial kitchen. We have cameras that are hooked up in different locations so we can get overhead shots and side shots. And then if you look this way, this is our teaching space. And then at the back, we have a camera there. All of our equipment is lined up over there. And we do have an AV hookup. This is a very state-of-the-art space. It was a lot of money. I don't know the exact amount of money that it was, but it was a lot. Here is our dish pit. Has a dishwasher, which is really nice. And then back in here, we have a walk-in fridge that leads to our roof that has bees on it. So we have our own honey. We have an apiary, and our hives are managed by the Philadelphia Bee Company, with whom we did a program a few weeks ago. I guess it was in end of September. We did a program with them that was really cool. They came in and taught us all about bees and local honey. And then we have, reach-ins, we have this staging area, and yeah. One of the things about this space that's a little weird is that it is an additional stream of revenue for the library insofar as they rent out the 4th floor for weddings and other big events. And so we do have a catering company come in here and use the space. So, it works out for everyone. Normally in this space, we would have 20 to 35 people, but the library has a number of restrictions on capacities for COVID, obviously. And we've been limiting to about 15 people, which, I mean, for this space, it's okay.
That's really amazing. I was wondering if I previously worked for the Free Library for about 6 months in between graduating college and then starting grad school and going to Drexel. And I remember the Culinary Literacy Center at the time was like brand new. And I do remember a couple of wedding parties going up there as I was leaving work. And so I was always curious about that, if they got to use the space. But this is a gorgeous kitchen. That's really incredible.
Yeah, there's no microwave here though.
Oh, wow.
We have 2 salamanders, but no microwave. Okay.
That's also really incredible about the bees being present there. That is something I never knew. That's really interesting. So yeah, thanks for sharing that. That's awesome.
Yeah, and we have had a number of programs around it. We're just trying to utilize this space. I'm trying to make a little garden out on our terrace, but it's difficult with the wind up here.
So we have a couple of questions prepared that we ask everybody that participates in a coffee chat. And then at the end, if anybody in our audience that is attending tonight has any questions that you would like to ask Lane, feel free to put them in the chat, and you can put them in at any time, because as we ask questions, they usually lead to other questions and other things that we may or may not have on our list. So you guys are ready to get started. Sorry, one sec. Okay, so one thing that I like to start out asking is, was there a specific moment or thing that led you to want to pursue library science?
Yeah, so I was on track to be in academia, and I found that wasn't my path. It wasn't really a good fit for me. But I had always really loved libraries. I'd never considered it as a career path until I was at OSU and I met Pasha Johnson, who is the curator of their Hillendar collection of medieval Slavic manuscripts. So I was actually, when I was in grad school, I was studying early 20th century book illustration in pre-revolutionary Russia. And I had never really put the two and two together, that I was studying books and I should maybe be a librarian. So I wanted to learn more about the collection, and I met with Pasha, and it just seemed like everything that she was doing was something that I wanted to be doing. And just having that ownership over a collection and just knowing it so well, and then people coming to you and being able to pinpoint them to the exact right resource that they want, that was totally incredible. So at that point, I started considering going to library school. I forget the name of the book. She gave me a book that was kind of like, read this and see if you like it. And if you like it, then, I don't know, maybe go to library school. And I had applied to library school. I had applied to Drexel, Rutgers, and UNC. And I got into all of them, but I got a fellowship at Rutgers, so that's why I went there. And well, not be that, whatever. It's also, yeah, I'll just leave it at that since this is being recorded. But and then the summer before I went to library school, I started library school. I took my MA exams and I dropped out of my PhD program respectfully. And then I participated in something called the Medieval Slavic Summer Institute that is offered through the Ohio State University with that specific collection that I mentioned that Pasha curates. And that was a really, really cool workshop that really solidified what I wanted to do. They gave us unidentified, unknown manuscripts for us to do some forensic investigation and try to figure out based off of what was written in it, how it was written, what it was written on, the binding, to try to figure out some type of provenance for it. And that kind of stamped it for me. And I've, from my background, I've bounced around to tried out a bunch of different types of librarianship. And I don't know if I've landed on the right one, but I know that I'm in the right career, at least.
That's awesome. Your experience doing sort of forensic work, as you described on the books, on those old manuscripts, that sounds so incredible. And I know we have a couple of archives people here at this event that I bet are like, ooh. So
it's really cool. I don't know, I haven't kept up with it. They might have moved it online, but it was based in Columbus, and it was something that they took about 12 or 15 people from across the country. It was really cool. And not even across the country. I mean, there were people who were there internationally. There were people who that was their specialty. And honestly, I felt a little out of place because I was learning how to read Church Slavonic, and there were people who have written books on it. It was really
that's really incredible though. That's awesome.
And library people are awesome. That's what it is. It's really like even if you feel out of place, library people are so cool. And I mean, I think that that's part of the thing that's great about the profession is that everyone's in it to help everyone else. We're in it to help our patrons and our users. And that just means that all of your colleagues, for the most part, are going to be pretty awesome. And if you ask your colleagues to do something, they'll probably do it for you.
Absolutely. Yeah, I definitely feel that. Let's see. So trying to think. Okay, so this isn't actually on my list, but something that I sort of think about per an event we had recently. We did a capstone panel for a couple of people that have either just finished their capstone projects within the program or are still working on it, and sort of ask questions about that. You've got some really cool experience. So I was wondering, you know, I know Rutgers has a really, really great program as well. Did you have to do a capstone through Rutgers? And what was that like? Or like kind of what was your end field experience? Whatever they do.
Remember. Is that bad?
No, it's not bad. If anything, I think as stressful as capstones are, I think many people would like to forget for that.
Yeah, honestly, I don't remember doing one. I remember doing a lot of really great projects and coming out with a solid portfolio of stuff to show people on the job market, which I was really thankful for. And, you know, not to say anything about anyone else's program, but I think that that was a little more useful to me to have, you know, a teaching statement for information literacy, to have, you know, like a website, to have some stuff to show people. And in addition to stuff that I could talk about that I've done. So I'll have to get back to you.
Yeah, no, that's totally fine. I haven't done a capstone yet. And so this is, you know, always a learning experience for anybody that we can ask. So we have a question in the chat from Davidson, which is, do you have a certain major or have to have a certain major to become a librarian? So right off the bat, I want to say, I'm assuming you mean undergraduate major, but we can also talk about grad school in general if you guys want to talk on that. Let me briefly send my list of questions to Christine. We can both do this.
Yeah, I noticed, Lane, that it was a master. Did you get a master's in information? Was that different than, is that what they call it at Rutgers, or is that just, I know that that's actually what Drexel is going. Drexel used to be master's in library information science, and now it's a master's in information. But I don't know if you had a specific area that you focused on in grad school.
I was focused on, so right before I attended Rutgers, they merged in their School of Communication the people who were doing information technology and the people who were doing library and archives. So that's why they made this dual umbrella of masters of information, which I think is pretty funny because I tell people like I'm a master of information, but it used to be, I think it was the MLS, just the typical standard. But I mean, I think that everyone still calls it an MLS, but just for official purposes, it's an MI.
Drexel has been doing the same thing in the last couple of years, and I definitely say MLIS instead of MIS. So maybe once the degree comes in the mail,
One of the actual practical implications of that merger was that all library students had to take coding classes, which, you know, I'm not too proud to admit, it's not my forte. Struggled a lot with it. I failed a lot of the assignments, had to resubmit almost every single one of them. So I don't know, does Drexel do that? You guys have to take coding classes?
We have coding classes available to take. I don't think it's one of the required core courses though. At least it's not yet. I wouldn't be surprised if they change the curriculum a little bit in the future to make that a required course. But yeah, I took that about 1.5 years ago. And if it makes you feel any better, because I work for Drexel in addition to being a student, the system that I was supposed to be posting stuff to got really confused about what my actual status with the university was, and I wasn't able to post anything at all for the first half of the term. So I know the struggle with that. Yeah.
Almost like an information professional and database organizers should know how to.
You should know. I'm not the only person who's working and going to school here. So, okay, let's see. So, oh yeah, something that I'm also very curious about, I know a couple of other people we like to always ask. So what does a typical day look like for you at work currently?
So I come in, and so basically right now, our department is usually populated with a number of positions. And I'm sure that you guys have heard that the Free Library is experiencing some staff shortages. So I take on some responsibilities that are not necessarily part of my job description on my daily tasks. But usually what I do is I come in, check to make sure that the place isn't on fire. I do a bunch of checks. So for this position, I got certified as a ServSafe manager. So I oversee all of the programs and make sure that they're being conducted safely for our participants. And that includes the kitchen space to make sure that everything is okay. I do some online reference. I usually come in and I answer emails for like 45 minutes while I'm trying to do the office task stuff. I have a number of meetings every day. It really depends on whether or not there's a program running. So we tend to do our programs at night. So it'll shift later into the day. And when there are programs, it's a lot of hustle and bustle. I wouldn't say running around because that makes me sound like I'm unprepared. But it's a little high paced. It reminds me of being back in the kitchen a little bit, and just coordinating everything with the presenters and doing prep and things of that nature. But when there's not a program running, it's a lot of planning something that is 2 weeks out, planning something that is 6 weeks out, and then putting feelers out for things that are even further down in the future. So it's a lot of juggling, and I don't think that is unique to this position. I think that all librarians do that. They just come in and they're just bombarded with stuff that they have to do every day. So I mean, today I came in and I had a couple phone meetings. I did our selection from our September releases for our cookbook selection. So we have a separate materials management department that handles all of the acquisitions and cataloging. I did some research for an Indigenous Foods Corn program that we're going to put on in advance of Thanksgiving. I did made myself some tea, but I'm trying to think what else I did. It's just a lot. It's always a lot, but that's one of the reasons why I love being a librarian, because you do something different every day. It's a little hectic, but it's something new. It's always stimulating, and it's not, I come in and I sit down and I do this every day. I will say that when I was a general adult teen librarian, instead of specifically a programming librarian, it was a lot more balanced. I do like doing collection work, and especially when I was a museum librarian, I was pretty much exclusively doing collection work and then some reference on the side. And it's kind of switched the other way, where now I'm pretty much like 80% into programming, and then I'll do 20% collections and other stuff. I do miss doing reference though, I really do. So sometimes I'll fill in at different departments around here. I'll pick up shifts at other libraries if people need help, because I do like interacting with the public.
Nice. I really like what you said about it sort of being, it's definitely a challenge, but it's like different every day. Totally resonate with that. Yeah, that's what I like about learning, even just from the classes taken in the program so far. Definitely, like, I sort of get that feel, and it's great. So we've got a couple of questions in the chat. I'm going to start with Davidson's question. Is the Culinary Literacy Center a profit or nonprofit organization?
So we're part of the Free Library of Philadelphia, which is funded by the city. So we're 100% nonprofit.
I guess that, but I wonder, are there programs that people do have to pay for, or are all the programs free?
So it's a political question, but so we have some programs that are ticketed and people pay for, and then there are some that we offer for free. And it really depends on the presenter. It depends on the topic. It depends on who is funding it. And that's a huge question because we have a budget here. We are given a certain amount of money and we have to put on all of our programs with that. But I'm sure you can imagine that programs that involve food have a higher cost. And especially if you don't know how many people are ultimately going to come to it. So for example, we had a program on Tuesday. I'm sorry, I should have said that. We had a program on Tuesday. It was a hybrid event. We had a Syrian chef come in to make malachaya as part of the Manuscripts of the Muslim World project that is between that the Free Library's Rare Book Department is part of. And we had 75 people sign up for it. It was a free program, and ultimately 10 people came. So you can imagine that there's an issue insofar as you plan for 75 people and you plan to feed 75 people. But then,
wow, yeah.
You know, if people don't come, then there's all this food and it's an expense. And, you know, thankfully, I'm not in the position. I'm a librarian. I don't have to do any of the upper level, you know, budgeting and, you know, asking for money and funding, all that. So I just, I'm really guided in that, but it's difficult to program. So the best measure is to ticket the event, have a small fee for it so that people are motivated to come. And I feel conflicted about that as a librarian. I think that all programs should be free, but I understand that this is a very complex organization. It's a very unique situation because I think that there are very few culinary literacy centers, and I don't know how any of them are funded or what their models are. But, you know, for example, if we have a big chef who's going to come and do a program, we'll ticket it. If we have something that is going to have a lot of cost associated with it, we'll ticket it. If it's something that we really want to offer to the public and is kind of necessary, we will take the proceeds, take the money that we made from those other ticketed events, and we will use that to offer the free programs. And, you know, I can't really speak more to the financial model other than that, but we do offer classes for free. If people reach out to us and say, hey, I really can't afford this, but I want to come to this, we will offer it for free always. And try to do as many free programs as possible as our budget allows.
That's amazing. Yeah, I can understand that. Yeah, with food, especially as an extra thing, that's got to be very difficult to plan for. Yeah. I feel like, I mean, this isn't the exact same thing, but DULASA as an organization, you know, we struggle with that sometimes. And like this event being on a Thursday, we plan most of our events for Thursdays and then realized, oh, all the online lectures are on Thursdays. There's a lot of people have a conflict. So not the same thing, but totally.
No, but I mean, that's one of the things that you have to consider doing programs. There's never a reason why you had a poor turnout. It could be anything. Like on Tuesday, it was raining. That could be why
yeah.
it didn't come, you know?
Absolutely.
But it's just an intersection. And honestly, one of the things that is difficult about this job is that there aren't good tools for assessment. Like, you can give people a survey to take, a feedback form, how much effort, how much thought they're going to put into it in answering the questions is kind of a crapshoot. There are so many variables that go into programs that it's kind of, you just take a stab at it and hope that it works. My approach is to try to do things, have multiple iterations of things so that you have a little bit more time to try to figure out what works best, because you have the variable of time, location, topic, any of those things. I know there are more, but I won't list them all, but you know what I mean. It's really difficult to juggle all of those things and pinpoint why something was a success or a failure.
Definitely. And I will even say, throw COVID and all that into the mix. And then of course it just gets even more tricky and all that. Yeah. We're going to do one more question from our list, and then we will open it up to everybody else if you have additional questions. But one thing that we always like to ask everybody that comes and does talks with us is, do you have any advice for anybody currently in an LIS program, or people that are, anybody that's sort of just entering the field of LIS for the first time?
Let me think on that.
Take your time.
For a second.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's a heavy question, because I think that most librarians are inclined to be a little on the critical side. So I'm trying to think of something to say that's like inspirational. I had a really hard time in the job market. I was planning to become an academic librarian, and I had 4 on-campus visits, and I lost them all to PhDs. So that was something that that kind of put a damper on my experience with the job search and whatnot. That being said, I'm really happy as a public librarian, and I'm not sure that if at this point I were offered my dream job at an academic library with a specific collection, that I would take it. I guess my advice for people who are in library school is to just keep talking to librarians. I know that I got kind of discouraged on my path because I was only talking to mid and late career librarians, and I felt like it was really, I was measuring myself against them without remembering that they had 20 years longer in the field than me, and I was just getting into it. So I would just say, keep talking to librarians, see what their experiences are, and talk to different kinds of librarians too. And if you have an opportunity to do something that is maybe, you're not sure if that's something that you would want to do, just do it anyway. I mean, didn't necessarily see myself as a museum librarian, but I did that. It was cool. I learned that that's probably not what I want to do in life, but it was a great experience, and it gave me a lot of good stuff that can pivot into anything else that I'm doing. Just explore the library world as much as you can, and it'll give you an idea of what you want to do. And what's great about this profession is that it's all applicable to whatever position you have. Like, if I wanted to go and apply for X, Y, and Z, it gets more difficult when you get into the mid and late level positions, but with entry level positions, you can really take and form your experiences and your projects into whatever job requirement it is. That's what, for the most part, I guess, for early career librarians, which I consider myself to be an early career librarian as well, and I probably will until I've been in the profession for like 15 years, but that's just me. I have like a little bit of an inferiority complex in everything that I do. But you know, just stay positive. And I'm sure that everyone has heard this, that being a librarian is totally different than being in library school. And hopefully that's something that's been drilled into you from the beginning. Just know that you're going to have a lot of really weird experiences. They're going to push up against a lot of political stuff that's going to be uncomfortable for introverts to have to deal with. But you know, you'll find your footing eventually, and just don't get discouraged by it. You got to be kind of tough. I mean, this is just speaking from my experience as well, and being in Philadelphia. I don't know if that has anything to do with you know, the amount of blocking that you have to do and protection, but that would be my advice.
Nice. I love that. And it makes me feel really great that we can have events like this and talk to you. And we've had academic librarians, we're going to have other people, you know, eventually I think we're going to have a UX librarian or a UX designer person come in and talk to us. So it really, that makes us feel very nice. Yeah, so thanks for that.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to open it up. If anybody has any questions that they've been sitting on, please put them in the chat. And if you don't, I know Christine and I have plenty of other questions that we could also ask at this time. I'll wait a moment if people are typing.
And to the point, if you have to have a certain major to become a librarian, undergrad, I know librarians who have done anything as their undergrad. And it's really, you know, librarianship is cool. I would say that about 70% of the librarians I know had a different career before they went to library school and decided to become a librarian. And that's just, I think that the cool thing is that librarians are good when they know a little bit about a lot of stuff, but not the other way around, like a lot about just one topic. So just that curiosity about things and populating all these little pockets of knowledge is great. So if you have a major that, you know, you don't think fits into the information landscape, I don't think that that's necessarily a thing. But to become a librarian, most positions do require that you have the MLS, which is very specific degree. And even some places will require an additional certificate. Philadelphia is not one of those places though. How do you go about developing a new program for the Culinary Literacy Center? Honestly, I just think of things that I think the community, one, needs, and two, would be interested in and would be willing to come to. You know, sometimes I'll go off of something timely. You know, for example, like the indigenous cooking class is obviously related to Thanksgiving. Last week we had a sugar skull workshop for Dia de los Muertos that was a collaboration with the Philadelphia Folklore Project. That was in advance of the holiday, obviously. So sometimes you can just pick it off of things that are going on. I have a number of larger issues that I want to discuss in the Culinary Literacy Center, and when opportunities arise with me doing community outreach or anything along that matter, I'll just keep a constant list of people who could potentially collaborate with me. So like I wanted to do, you know, that Philadelphia has a big problem with diabetes and heart disease and obesity. So I wanted to do something specifically for the diabetic population, because obviously cooking and eating is a huge part of it. And let's be honest, a lot of diabetic recipes are gross, and people who have diabetes are frustrated with the diets that they have to follow. So right now we're doing a collaboration with the Fraser Family Coalition. They're doing some, they're kind of part information sessions, part cooking demonstrations. to specifically target that population. And, you know, just like really listening to your community and what your community is interested in and the demographics of that community, what's going on at the time. It's just a lot of listening and learning. And honestly, you know, I do play my ideas off of my colleagues to say like, hey, do you think this is a good idea? How do you think I should go about it? What partnership do you think I should make for it? But, you know, we're really looking right now to elevate different perspectives and different voices, to spotlight Philadelphia businesses, organizations, and you know, there are so many people doing such great work with food equity, with health initiatives and everything related to the pandemic. And even before all of that happened, there were so many good organizations to partner with. And just, you know, just throwing stuff, seeing what sticks to the wall, honestly. But I think that that's about what I can say about that. So what are some programs I'm planning related to Christmas? So I'm doing some really, well, I won't make a value judgment on it, but I have a gingerbread house workshop in the works. So that's going to be with the Center for Architecture and Design. So we're going to teach people, we're going to have people construct a little gingerbread house in the library and decorate it, be able to take it home, but also learn about the architect who designed the building, different architectural styles in Philadelphia, and some foundational architectural elements so that people can understand the, I already said structural, but the structural elements that keep buildings up. We're also doing, there's an author, Lindsay Gardner, who made a cookbook called Why We Cook that spotlights female chefs who have contributed to the profession. And she wrote and illustrated it. She did biographies. And so we're going to have her on, and we're going to have kind of like an informal discussion about women's place and women's relationships to food, and, you know, the dichotomy of home cook, professional cook, and where women lie in the traditions of the family. That's kind of more of an abstract concept right now. And then I believe my supervisor is putting together something else. Honestly, I'm trying to keep the traditional American Christian holiday celebrations to a little bit of a minimum, just because of there's such an area, there's such a potential for exploration. Philly is so multicultural, and there are really a lot of programs around those holidays for people to attend that don't necessarily need to come to the library for that. We don't have a strong religion collection either. You know, we have a Christianity section, but it doesn't get a lot of use. So that's not really my specialty. And I just, you know, I'll stay a little bit away from that.
Thank you for coming, Theo. Oh, I guess he left. All good. So I think we're almost at 8 o'clock, so we can wrap up in just a little bit here. But something that I also wanted to ask that, you know, Christine was also curious about, has it been a challenge to do outreach to users because of the pandemic? And has attendance been affected sort of either virtually or in person because of that?
Yes, it has been a challenge to do outreach to users. So I'll speak to my experience. I used to work at the 52nd Street branch, and we advertise our programs there mostly by physical flyers. And I know that that sounds a little archaic, but in our community in Philadelphia, that's really, if you hand people a flyer, they're going to pay more attention than if you send them an email or anything. So since the libraries were closed except for pickups, and we weren't doing much outreach, we weren't doing much programming at that time either, because we were just trying to, make it through that time. It was really challenging, and honestly, I don't know of, my colleagues in the branches are not putting on nearly as much programming as they did before, and they're, everyone is still kind of testing the waters and trying to figure out what's going on. We advertise mostly through our newsletter. So I write the newsletter that goes out monthly with announcements of our programs and updates and, a recipe of the month and whatever, things that people might be interested in. So that has the same reach as it ever did. And when we had virtual programs, they were relatively well attended until the summertime. And then there was a super, super steep drop off where people were just like, I'm done with virtual. I'm done with the pandemic. I'm going to go outside and play. I'm going to go to a concert. I'm going to go on vacation. I don't want to do any of this anymore. And that's totally fine. We kind of took a break over the summer for that reason, because, if people aren't interested in, I don't know about you guys, but I had a whole year of sitting with myself and developing myself and thinking about, interesting things that I could get into. But at a certain point, you just can't do that anymore. You can't do that, 24 hours a day for an entire year. You need a little bit of break. And people in Philadelphia needed a break, so we took a break. And now we're in a space where we're really trying to figure out what people want. We're offering hybrid programs, which is an enormous amount of work. But it's something that we are willing to do and trying to do because we think that that is what people need right now. There's some people who aren't comfortable going out yet, and there are some people who want that in-person program. So we are trying to kind of limit it to have the hybrid events be ones where it's really necessary for someone to be in person to either, like touch something or taste something, but otherwise keep it virtual. I'm playing with some asynchronous programs as well, like the gingerbread thing. There's going to be an asynchronous component where people can just build their branch on their own, and they can send us pictures of it, and we'll, whoever makes the best one will get something. I don't know, whatever I'm allowed to give people away. And me and the art librarian are putting together something we're calling Palette Expander, which is an art class where people will be able to get exposed to different types of produce that maybe they wouldn't be able to find or wouldn't be able to afford, and do a watercolor of it and then eat the food afterwards. So that would be, we're imagining that kind of as an asynchronous event too, if we can't have it in person, just having it on like a Slack channel or something where people are like, hey, this is the thing that's like, oh man, pawpaws are weird. So trying to play with that type of stuff is fun, but it's also challenging. So it has been a little bit of a challenge to reach out to people and to get honest feedback from them as well. It's like, did this work for you? No one came, so I guess it didn't. I can't ask you. But we have had some really well-attended programs too. And that's just the way that it goes. And that goes for any library landscape. I did my internship at Penn at their Fine Arts Museum at their Fine Arts Library. And my final project for my internship was I put together an exhibition on Soviet architecture using the resources that they had in the library. I have no idea how well attended it was, because it opened after my time there, after I had already gotten another job and moved on. So there's really just no way to know any of the things. So just keep trying. And this is a hard time to be putting programs together, and it's also a hard time to be on the job market. So my heart really goes out to all of you guys for being in school and looking down the barrel of a really long gun at this point. No, that was fatalistic. Pretend I said something more uplifting.
Super true though. And I feel like I don't want to speak for anybody, including you. It's very, I appreciate when people are honest about the kind of thing though, because you know, you can try to sugarcoat what the job search is like, but there's just no point. You know, it's a little bit rough.
So, I mean, I'll just say, I see that it's 8, don't want to keep people, but I'll just say if anyone wants to reach out to me, they want to ask any questions about public librarianship, if they want to ask anything about museum librarianship, or I mean, really anything about the job search, about, I'm more than happy to connect with people. I'll drop my email in chat so that people can reach out to me if they want. Like I said, it was really helpful for me when I was starting to talk to other librarians, and especially talks like this, of just candid conversations about what it's like to be a librarian. And then, you know, I can be even more candid off recording.
Appreciate that. Yeah, so Lane's email is in the chat, and if anybody, I'm just throwing it out there, wants to connect on LinkedIn, feel free to hit me up. I can add you to the DULASA page. We have a DULASA page on LinkedIn that also talks about our upcoming events and whatnot. So yeah, other than that, unless anybody else has anything that they would like to say or mention, we are at 8:01. So I will just say thank you all for coming. Thank you, Lane. Thank you so much for being here and talking to us. We really appreciate it. And we appreciate everybody asking questions and really just being here. This is awesome.
Yeah, and if you're curious, you can go to freelibrary.org/cook and you can sign up for our newsletter. I mean, you could just look at it to see the kinds of programmings that we have, or our Eventbrite page to get an idea of what we've done in the past. Free Library is a cool place to work. If they ever hire again, consider it. Oh, thank you. Yeah.
There's the Eventbrite page. Thank you so much, Lane.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, everyone. Bye. I'm gonna stop.